Have you ever had someone look at you one, suddenly you remembered you were still alive? Nothing so dramatic, moving kinda way, just a kid. Steady gaze, dead sleep past the grocery lists and the laundry piles and lenda dry tanda pesan. You used to be before life started calling you man all the time. It never meant for any of it to happen. I didn't wake up one morning thinking that I llevar our friends and one WHO isn't mine, it eclipses in the wave a rolls off the lake at dawn slow cool. Impossible to notice until you're already soaked. My name doesn't mete. But let us say empty 7, two wild-hearted little boys, a split-level house that always smells faintly of crayons and coffee, and a husband who still kisses the top of my head every night before. Rolls over and falls asleep in under 30 seconds. We refine fine is the word people use when they don't want to dig. Fine means separate continents in the same bed. Fine means conversations the day after. Did you pay the water bill? Fine means he started wearing his old college sweatshirts. Because at least I still carried the ghost of how he used to hold me. Then there's a Caleb. He's been my husband as a friend since they went into back when they thought weekends were for camping and cheap beer. Caleb is the one who remembers birthdays without Facebook. WHO notices when the porch light burns out. WHO asks my oldest son about the book he's reading instead of just saying good game, buddy. I never flirted. I never leaned too close or let his hand stand my back a second longer than polite. But he looked at me like it was still a whole story, not just the epilogue everybody skimmed. It started at a backyard barbecue last summer. Kids shrieking through a sprinkler, charcoal smoke curling into a pink sky that thrown on a sundress and worn since before pregnancy stretched me into new shades. Nothing special, just off cotton. Se Caleb cantaloupe. I remember bending to pick up a plastic sword someone abandoned in the grass when he straightened up. Caleb was watching me. Not string.vvching.lik y was memorizing the way the light cuts the tiny freckles across my shoulders. I felt it in my knees first, then my stomach. Then the back of my throat. I smiled too fast and looked away, but I didn't forget. After that, I started noticing how he noticed. When he cut 4 inches of my hair, he said, "You look lighter," and somehow that felt more intimate than any compliment about being pretty. When he showed up to a cookout in sneakers because my feet were killing me, I said, "Good. You should be comfortable in your own yard." Little kindnesses. Tiny stitches sewing something back together inside my chest. I told myself it was nothing. Women get flattered, married women get flattered, and go to bed and forget about it, except he didn't forget. I started choosing jeans that actually fit instead of the stretched loud yoga pants. I painted my toenails for the first time in 2 years. I caught myself laughing louder when he was in the room. And every time my husband walked past without looking up from his phone, something inside me shrank another millimeter. One October evening, the air smelled like wood smoke and coming rain. We were gathered at our pleasant couples, kids, too many bags of chips. I was tired, hair twisted up with a pencil. Wearing an old flannel because he'd given up, people trickled out. My husband disappeared into his office with that familiar gothic recall vibe. Suddenly it was just Caleb and mistaking chairs on the deck. The string lights flickered, a dog barked somewhere down the street. I said, "You okay, Lena?" I used my real name, not Sehey. Baby, everyone else had switched 2 years ago. I left it off. Just surviving. I didn't left back. I looked at me the way people look at old houses. They were afraid to fall in love with, like he could already see the wag, the beauty, the rat. And still wanted to walk through every room. I felt that I lived my lands. We stood there. Maybe 3 feet apart, hands full of folding chairs, and the space between us felt like it was breathing. Nothing happened. No touch, no whispered confession. I just said, "You deserve to be more than surviving," then carried the chairs to the gates and left. I stood under the calm time after his truck pulled away. The cold beat my cheeks. I realized he was crying, and I didn't even know when it started. The next weeks were torture disguised as ordinary. They see his name and a group text, and my heart would slam against my ribs. Either he has conversations in the show that would never happen. I started sleeping worse than ever. Some nights I'd sleep downstairs at las 2 a.m., sit on the kitchen floor with the lights off, and just breathe because the one thing had grounded. Then came the night that changed everything without changing anything at all. It was a Thursday in November, floating against the windows. My husband was gone some work trip. 3 states away, texting only when he landed and when he went to bed. The boys were finally asleep. The house felt too big and too small. At the same time, my phone was done. Counted Caleb. You up stared at those 2 words until the screen went dark. I should have ignored it. I should have turned the phone face down and gone to bed. Instead, I typed, "Doors open," and act anyway 3 soft taps. Like he was still giving me time to change my mind I let him in, stood in the entryway dripping rain onto the mat, hair plastered to his forehead, looking as scared as he felt. We didn't hug hello, we didn't pretend this was casual. He took off his coat and laid it over a chair like he was afraid to take up too much space. I offered tea because my hands needed something to. Though we ended up at the kitchen table, to Max. Steaming between us, the crack ticking louder than it ever had before. Spout fast, voice barely above the slit, hitting the window. I am not here to wreck your life, I left. A broken sound. Too late for that, I looked at me, then really looked, and said, I just see you fading, and it is killing me. I started crying so hard, I couldn't see him through the blade. I didn't move to comfort me, and knew if he touched me we'd both be lost. When he could breathe again he whispered, what are we doing? Caleb gazed at his forehead and his hands for a long moment. Then, so quietly almost misty, I don't want to take anything from you, I just want to look at you without having to pretend I don't. I felt a year of loneliness rise up and choke me. I thought of my husband snoring in hotel sheets 3 states away. I thought of the way I started flinching when people asked, how are you? Because the silence was too heavy. I thought of the woman I used to be who danced in the kitchen to songs no one else liked. And this said the truest thing I'd said in years. I am so tired of being invisible. I reached across the table, not to hold my hand, but to push back Sapti's used closer. His fingers brushed mine for half a second, and it bent like frostbite and sunrise at the same time. We talked until the sleet turned to snow, not about living, spouses or running away or any of the reckless things people imagine. We talked about how it feels when the peasant who promised forever starts treating you like furniture. We talked about the specific ache of living at your own child as a joy and realizing no one in the room is looking at you while you do it. We talked until our voices were and that he had gone cold twice. At some point he said, I am not asking you to choose me, I am asking you to choose yourself. Even if that means I never sit at this table again. Don was standing the windows levande when he stood up to leave. I walked him to the door. We paused there, couch on. Breath fogging in the cold leaking through the cracks. He looked at me one last time like he was memorizing the exact shade of my eyes in early light. Then he said, whatever you decide. You ran at invisible, not to me, not ever again. I stepped onto the porch. I closed the door before I could change my mind and begged him to stay. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch wrapped in the blanket that still smelled faintly of his coat and watched the snow cover everything like forgiveness. I wasn't ready to accept. My husband came home 2 days later. He dropped his suitcase, kissed my cheek, asked if we needed milk. I looked at him, really looked, and felt something shift inside me, not safety, but clearer like ice breaking an arrive you didn't know was frozen. I started small. I asked him to put his phone down at dinner. Just 11. He looked surprised. But he did it. I told him I missed the way we used to talk until the street lights came on. He blinked like he was waking up from a long nap. We fought again. Careful, the way people fight when they terrified the blues in what is left. Then we kept talking. Some nights we sat on the couch, long after the boys were in bed and tried to find a map back to each other. It is slow. Some days it feels impossible. Some nights it's still like, for. So Caleb looked at me like he was a country he wanted to learn the language of. He had some mutual friends. He took a job 2 hours away. I didn't say goodbye. I guess that was his last kindness removing the temptation, so I could choose with both hands free. I won't lie and tell you that one thing is gone some evenings. When the house is quiet and my husband is late at the office, I still feel that pull, like a tide that never quite learned my name was no longer its moon. But I also feel something new growing in the crack. Caleb as a gaze left behind the fears. Stubborn refusal to disappear again gave myself flowers last week, not because anyone was watching, but because I wanted to see color when I walked into a room. I signed up for the patay class. I always hated the text and bay. My hands are huge covered in clay now, and when I wash them at night I think, these hands built a life, these hands can rebuild a marriage, these hands are still allowed to want things. I never touched Caleb. Not once, but he gave me back the outline of myself when I forgot and where I ended up, and to begin, and maybe that is the most dangerous gift of all, to be reminded you're a woman. Not only a wife, not only a mother, not only a woman, WHO picks up everyone else's sacks. So if you've ever stood in your own kitchen, at last 3 I'm holding a mug, you're not drinking wondering when exactly you became background cine in your own life. I see you really see you, and you don't have to blow everything up to start existing again. Sometimes, all it takes is one peasant refusing to look away until you remember how to look at yourself. The snow from that night is long. Melted spring came early this year. The lilacs outside my bedroom window are already blooming purple against the siding. Some mornings I wake up before the alarm and my husband arm is heavy across my waist, his breath warm against my shoulder. And I think we relen in ANUM language. Once la baleta time, its not the while. Reclas la voz went in five, its quiet, hard w.n.real.n de 11 days, when it feels too heavy. I open the kitchen window, let the lilacs in. And I whispered and joked the semen who never touched me but refused to let me vanish, because being seen truly, inconveniently. Que ellas listen can be the thing that saves your world, the thing that changes everything. Sometimes it is both, and sometimes, if you rest enough and lucky enough, and willing to do the terrifying work, it is the thing that brings you all the way home.